Welcome to my studio. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you a really easy way to create a texture like you see on these two books using tissue paper. Turn this around so you can get a little bit better look. So I'm going to walk you through step by step showing you how to achieve this look. Let's get started. I've taken this book and I've cut a hole in the cover. And then I've also cut a hole in quite a few pages because I'm going to be embedding something in here. But first I'm going to do the texture on the outside of the book. What you're going to need is some Mod Podge. I'm just using a matte Mod Podge because I'm going to be staining this. So this is just going to act as the glue. I also have a foam brush to use with it. I have some sheets of wax paper, and that's going to protect the parts of the book I don't want to get messed up with the Mod Podge. And then I have taken some tissue paper and torn it up into small bits, you can see there, and kind of crumpled it up as well in addition to tearing it all up. This is a really simple process. It's a little bit messy, so I always have like a wet rag that you can wipe your hands off. And then I'm just going to put this inside the book because I don't really want to get any of this with the Mod Podge on it or the tissue paper. So I protect that side, and then of course I'm going to be doing all the way around the book, so I have another piece for the back side. And that'll just keep me focused on the outside of the book. The first thing you're going to do is put a little bit of Mod Podge on your cover, or whatever surface. This doesn't have to be a book. I mean, you could do this on chipboard, whatever you want. So just get some Mod Podge on there. And then you're just going to start putting the tissue paper, and you know, you want to kind of crumple it up as you put it on. I don't know if you can see how I've kind of, there's some area that's thicker and some that's thinner. And you just want to start placing the tissue paper where you've put the Mod Podge. And the bigger, more texture you want, the thicker you can make this. And you'll want to think about also going around the edge of the book as well, not just the top, so that you get at least just the edge of this, maybe with some pieces of tissue paper. Just wrap them a little bit. So you're going to have high points and low points, and you're going to keep doing this. And then I usually like to just do a section at a time and then kind of let it dry so that I don't end up with this big mess. And you know, the stuff dries pretty quick. So I'm kind of crumpling and putting it on at the same time. And then I'm going to come in, once I have it on, I'm going to come in with some Mod Podge and go over the top of it too. And that's going to glue it all down really good. And then these excess pieces, I'll just put some Mod Podge on the edge and come with my finger and just kind of press it down and just go in. And I will also do the inside of this cutout that I have, so that everything inside the cutout, around the edges, all around the back, is all done this way with the Mod Podge and the tissue paper. So just do as much as you want at a time, and then maybe let it dry, and then do some more, and then you can go back and add more if you feel like you've got a place that you want it to be thicker, or you don't have it kind of, you know, evenly distributed in kind of a random way. You know, those are oxymorons, but I think you know what I mean. So I'll just keep doing this until I have the whole book done. Now I have my book completely covered with the tissue paper. Now I'm going to stain this book, but if I were to stain this, you would still see the pattern underneath the tissue paper. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with just some acrylic paint, and I'm going to paint the book so that I neutralize all the color underneath the tissue paper. And I'm using white so that it will completely block that color. So I'll continue to paint the whole book, and depending on your paint, you might have to do a couple of coats to get it all covered. But everywhere where I'm going to be staining the book, all around the edges, the back, the front, the spine, I'm going to paint first with this acrylic paint. Now that I've got a good coat of paint all over the book to kind of hide the colors of the cover, the next thing I need to do is I'm going to seal it. Now, you wouldn't need to do this if you were just going to paint it, but because I'm going to use stain reacts with the paint, and if you don't seal the paint or seal the surface here, then the stain is going to sink in, and you won't get the stain color or the effect of the stain. So I've kind of made a little sample here on the chipboard. Both sides have been painted with the acrylic paint, and you can see the difference where here when I apply the ink, it just sinks right into that paint, and it doesn't even hold the color. It doesn't look like stain. And here you can see I've applied it to the other side. Now I sealed this first with Mod Podge, and then I did the stain, and then the stain will sit on top of that and not sink down into the paint. So I'm just going to come through here and just apply a really good coat. One coat should do it, just to make sure you get it everywhere, because if you miss a spot, it's going to look like the one side of the sample board I have over here, and it's not going to look like the stain. One of the nice things about stain is that it's kind of like the alcohol inks, in that when you apply it, you get the color, but it doesn't change the look of the texture underneath it like paint does. If you paint something, it's going to look like the paint. So it's kind of has a translucidity, however you want to say that, to it, and so you still get the look of the texture underneath the stain. So I'm just going to keep painting this, coating it, and letting part of it dry, and then coating the rest of it. So now the book is sealed with the Mod Podge. I'm going to go ahead and stain it, and I'm using Distress Stain, the Vintage Photo Color, and it comes with a dauber on the top that you can use to sort of pounce it on. With it being all textured like this, I just don't feel like I have enough control with that, so the way I like to do it is just to pour some out into a little dish and get some on a little sponge, and then just start applying it to the book. And then if you want to like remove some, if you feel like it's too dark in one place, which I want the dark and the light, then I would come in with a Kleenex, and I use a Kleenex because instead of a paper towel, because a paper towel is pretty stiff, and so you might not be able to just get down into the nooks and crannies. But I want this pretty dark in some places and light in others, so I probably won't worry about removing the ink. I'm just going to keep going over the book until I get it the way I want it. See, I got a lot of puddles going on there. I can actually pull it to other places if I feel like I've got too much. And it's easier to get around the edges here. So I'm just going to continue in this fashion, and then you can see if I come in with a Kleenex, I can pull it off if I want to. I'm just going to let that settle in the deep crevices. And you can see how the texture, you can really tell now that I'm inking it with this stain. You can really see all the texture of the tissue paper. The next thing I'm going to do is to add some color, and that will also help you see the raised bits even better. I'm going to use some Gilder's Paste. It's one of my favorite things to use, and you can just pretty much use it on any surface. So I'm just going to take my finger, and I'm just going to brush lightly the raised areas. of the surface. I'm going to be putting on a second color, a little bit too much there. You can just always wipe it off if you need to. I'm going to be adding a second color after I allow this one to dry. And you can just put as much or as little as you want. I'll put less of the second color than I do of this patina color, which is kind of a teal. And I do the edges as well as I think if you come in close into this area here, you'll see, you also can see the light and dark of the stain. And I do the spine and the other side as well. And now I'm going to flip it over on the other side because I've already done the patina on the other side. See there? And now I'm going to come in with the Inca gold. Wipe off my finger and just really lightly brush the gold on. Of course, if you get too much, you want more of the patina, you can go back in and add more of that. Just depending on how you want it to look. I'm going to tilt this up a little bit so maybe you can see a little bit better. And that's all I'm going to do in terms of coloring the book. So you're finished. You know, in this book, The Dreaming of Romance, which I posted earlier on the blog, all I did on this one is I applied the tissue paper with the Mod Podge, and then I painted the book with this burgundy looking acrylic paint. So I didn't have to seal it. I wasn't using any kind of stain. So I simply, once the stuff dried, all the tissue paper dried, I went through and painted it. It took me a couple coats to get it exactly like I wanted it of the acrylic paint. I let that dry, and then just like I did with the other book, I just used the Inca Gold Gilder's Paste and just went over with my finger all the little high spots, and that's what gave me that texture. So it's a lot easier process if you're just going to use something simple like an acrylic paint. You're not going to use an ink or something like that to stain it. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial and you have fun applying this technique to your art projects.